And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. This is Val here, Advent 5. We got Assassination, Just the Guest, and John. Can we get a hooty hoo?
Yeah.
All right.
Val, I don't know if we're live. I can't see
No,
it
well, he
on the
says we're
YouTube.
live. We're live, right? Assassination? Live?
I don't even have it up. Let me see.
So we're doing
We are.
we're passing the producer stick.
Yeah,
Okay, I see it.
Yeah, we're live. Okay,
Is it?
we're live.
Yeah, I
right?
see it.
Why do I not have a notification?
All right. Is it? Yeah, it's in live. Okay, let's double check, guys, because if I don't want to do this and then it not show up, because that'd be
refreshing.
hilarious. Yeah, no, because it's not even showing up on YouTube or like the announcements at all.
That only happens like once you post it, usually.
Right. So you said
Is it listed?
Yeah.
You have to look at the settings because for some reason it keeps defaulting as unlisted.
Okay. All right.
I'll send you guys a link
All right.
in Zoom.
Let me stop recording then, if that's the case.
Well, leave it up.
No, don't do that.
Okay, well, we'll do
Leave
it
it
live,
up.
guys. We'll do it live. Okay, holy. All right. Okay. So, what site am I looking under? Because I'm on video.
Look, go on Zoom.
Oh,
I sent the link so you can see this is live.
Okay.
I wonder if
Guys,
I can do it in the background.
just ninjas over here. All right.
What's the name of the video?
Name of the video? I think it.
You give it a title when you go live.
It says Advent 5 behind the scenes OGL and world building.
No.
Huh?
The same title as last time.
So is it?
We're
is
live
it-
at 1:59. We're live
Yeah.
2 minutes and
Oh,
counting.
it is unlisted. So Val, on the right hand side, do you see where it says edit?
On right hand side of what?
I can do it.
The live stream.
Oh well,
'Cause I think you said you wanted to do private, right?
no, I didn't want it private. Let's. Okay.
I mean, I didn't do anything, but I'm just.
Okay.
yeah.
I'm in there. Let me save it.
Hey,
right.
all right.
Now we're public.
Are we good? We're live? Live? Okay, we're live. All right, guys. I have to make some edits in this video.
No edits. We do live. We said it.
Oh yeah, fucking one take, guys. So first thing first, this is a continuation of the previous episode, behind the scenes, OGL, no OGL, world building here. We're dealing with Deethra. We're using the, let me get the official title. It's
Weltenbau Wissen.
Yeah.
I'll leave it.
Assassination.
Yeah.
You know any German?
Einandsluss an diese Number.
Yeah. That's
Weltenbau Wissen.
that shit sound like you're fucking playing Call of Duty over here. Hold on. UAV online. But we left off halfway through, or I don't even think we were halfway through. I think we were like a quarter through, right?
No, we're about probably half. So we were at cultures and
Yeah.
history. Where we left off is we were building out kind of the timeline of the world. We decided that it's marked by 5 eras. Each era is marked by a shard bearer who kind of changed the world. The first era, which is the first kingdom of men, it happened between year 1
The Hero
to
King
2500. Batar, the hero of men, he lived to be 80 years old. 83 generations of his family, conquered and tamed the rest of the world. And then we got into the second era, which we named the Age of Dragons. And I think that's kind of where we're at. We have the third era and the fourth and fifth after that, but second era,
yeah.
Age of Dragons.
Yeah, we
so how
did-
long? What year? So 2501, I'm
No.
assuming, until...
So, I mean, essentially, yeah, I mean, it would be the next year if that's the next kind of. But it doesn't have to be like immediately afterwards. It can just be like, oh, like then this year's when it kind of officially happened. So it can be some pause in between the eras. I guess it just depends on.
Well, let's just, for a timeline's sake, let's keep it nice and neat.
Okay.
Right after.
That'll work. Put the numbers afterwards. Okay, so
Is there any calamities or anything that takes place between these ages?
this is the
This
calamity.
is the calamity.
Okay.
This is the okay. So essentially here, the eight. So assassination, like Deethra is a place, kind of as a really sort of social kind of place. There's these wondrous shards that give people that possess them almost like deific powers. Only like a piece of them once per day, kind of thing. So essentially, all these shards are kind of scattered about the world, and then the Batar, the Hero King, hey, we can use these shards and power up, and then he, conquered a lot of basically the mortal realm. Then leads to this era, Age of Dragons. Dragons seen the little humans. Oh, they can use all these shards. Well, let's see if I use it. And then they conquered they reconquered the world, and it literally led to a dragon world,
And it might be interesting if the dragons didn't necessarily use them, but just kept them from human possession. Because one of the things we talked about last time, and we kind of just kept moving, was there's no logical reason that if a dragon gets like a handful of these things or 50 or 100 or whatever, that, I mean, they're essentially unbeatable at that point. Like, why would anything happen or change to then bring humans back into any kind of power? And so,
what would cause the fall of dragons? I think that's where we hadn't fleshed out.
We'll see, and essentially, this is what I had in mind. So I'll bounce this idea off you guys. Was the big thing is you can't live forever. Eventually, dragons do die. So essentially, once the dragons figured this out, the dragons kind of fought for control over these shards, and then one rose to the top, the unnamed top dragon, and then when he died, then it was pure chaos, and each dragon fought each other, drastically reducing their population because they just fought until basically the ones that didn't fight just kind of really only surviving dragons left. And that's kind of how these shards kind of spread out and about. So it was essentially the Age of Dragons is a long period of time where dragons essentially killed each other until they almost reached extinction from using this deific power. That's kind of my thoughts about it.
So most likely there have been like stockpiles of shards where in dragon hordes or something of that nature.
That's what we were like. That's the only thing that makes sense. If you have a cunning dragon that's, in this world, dragons are a mile long or whatever. They're massive creatures, like way bigger than D&D dragons or classic dragons of like fantasy. They're like these
worms,
and they possess a high level of intelligence, right? There's no reason they wouldn't have it. So either something prevented them from finding them. It could be just their scarcity where they are in the world. That could simply be that. So if they're in the nooks and crannies and the valleys and the Underdark, a 700-foot dragon is not going to be able to find it.
They're not finding all the shards, yes.
But they would have enough influence over their minions to find it. So we need to figure out this problem. A hyper-intelligent creature that can live 2,500 years old and have hordes of minions and infinite resources. Why would they not be able to find these things?
And this is not like a godlike creature. This is a regular creature.
It's a living, breathing creature. There is no god deific creature.
Do they eat?
Yes, they eat. They eat stuff.
I mean, because then the issue is like part of the lore of the shards is that it increases lifespan significantly, right? And if you look at it just like a percentage wise, right? If it can make a human who might otherwise live 70 years will now live 250 years, then that same sort of exponentially
right, because then the dragons would live like 10,000 years ago.
So now we're talking multiple millennia before anybody dies.
Oh, okay.
Now, what if it was not as simple as men fold over? Because clearly we survive or they survive. What if this is just kind of the build-up to a massive conflict where, the kingdoms of men, they are wielding with their shard bearers against the dragons. Maybe the dragons don't even need the shards. They're just that fucking powerful just by themselves. They're mystical creatures. Maybe they can't use them. I don't know. But it comes to a point where these apex predators are threatened, because that's the 83 generations of humans taming the wilds. They're like, no, we got to put this, and then maybe there's a huge conflict, and maybe dragons can't use them, but maybe they do hoard them as a way to
and against them.
To prevent people from
rising
using
up
them.
again.
That's what I was thinking. Is that it's less about them using the shards and more about them just preventing the humans from using them. And then if then those hordes are found, I still think it's I don't know.
I think in that circumstance, if you're talking about creatures that are that big, living off of the world as just like everybody else, that you would have to limit the number of them.
Well, there's not like dozens of them, right? They're just too big to kind of be that to exist in the world. They would just eat dozens.
I would think creatures that big would probably be worshipped as gods from mortals and regular
There's
people.
some. I think that was the idea, is that some of them do have their own human.
Yeah, like
followings.
kobold. Not just humans, but like kobolds and lizard folks. Some other demi-humans do worship them like gods. And some humans probably, some cults probably do, of course, just big strong things.
What if it was a coalition of multiple dragons, and it could be, 7, whatever, and their individual cults? They maybe for the first time ever, them and their subhuman, or their the orc, like those guys band together and say, we need to stop the humans because they're taking over the world. World War II happens, and then the aftermath it's just called the Age of Dragons, because the aftermath, maybe there's 1 or 2 people in power, but the world is just in ruins at that point.
I see what you're saying now. So you're saying that essentially,
and then maybe the shards are just scattered across maybe there is no stockpile problem. It's just the culmination of 2 forces come together, they clash, the destruction's so widespread, almost everyone is killed, the shards are divided amongst the dragon clans or whatever as spoils of war, and maybe some men took it away, and they're scattered to the 9 winds.
And then that's that third time period that we were talking about, that's like some sort of dark age situation. So then maybe rather than the Age of Dragons, it's more like War with Dragons, something like the War of Dragons or something like that, where it's a more truncated time period, but it's that
like 100 years war or whatever.
I think that's good. I do like the one the Dragon War. That one, but that does also add a faction at that point, because there'd be like several different dragon cults, especially the ones that exist in the world. So you have to keep in mind of that, because they, dragons do live a long time. I haven't decided the age or not. That's kind of relevant, but they do live a long time. So there will be several cults, and they probably will remember this, seeing that it isn't like it's not tens of thousands of years ago. It's like 1,000 years ago. So that means like,
well, we haven't figured that out yet, right?
Yeah,
like we can change the timeline. It could be 10,000 years ago if that's what we want. Because I remember
that dark period, that could be ages,
Because it should be, because my thing is that my thing about the eras, at least how they're currently constructed, is that it feels like it's too fast, right? It feels like it's too fast, or in the beginning.
500 years is,
but like not in the modern day, but it feels like it's like ancient, like how like we have like ancient, modern, like ancient, whatever, medieval, industrial, like that. It just feels like we're just going through so much time to where it feels like.
Yeah, but I mean, you also have to think like that wasn't that long ago. Like technically speaking, when we're talking about like the history of the world, the 1800s, which was like that was not that long ago. Yeah. And it was, like
geologically speaking, yes.
Like, right? And so like when we're talking about like humanity, like humans walking on 2 legs and what we call Homo sapiens have only existed period for about 10,000 years.
Yeah.
So
most eras are marked by rulers and the lands that they control. And it's like, look at all the dynasties that they changed hands like less than 100 years. It was
Right.
really just one man, and it was marked by. So I think it makes sense. They could be, maybe the most recent ones are marked by recent shard bearers, but a dragon war is, let's say, 100 years, 200 years, whatever it is. The third era could be a dark age that lasted 1500, 2000, whatever we want. And then
what would spur on the dark age? Like, what happened to make it be a dark age?
This dragon war. So this is like the cataclysm.
Okay, so like everything is destroyed.
I think we haven't gotten there yet, but I think that's the idea.
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, if dragons are fighting, and I haven't gotten what the dragons really do. That's kind of relevant, but if dragons are fighting and they're miles long, and their wings can summon tornadoes and hurricanes, it's probably a cataclysm. So
it's almost like I imagine like men fighting. Well, it's like the gods fighting the titans at this point with the kingdom of men versus the dragons. It's like these two forces, they just can't exist in the same world, and it just.
I was just thinking the same thing. I was just going to ask, have you thought about a age of the underground? Like nothing on the surface could be out there with them. They would. If you wanted to survive, you would have to find alternate shelter.
I've
that'd
actually
probably be before the Batar then, right? AR then, if that's the case, right? Because that's like it had to be before then. Because if he's conquering the known realms, and it's just like they would know he would do that. They would stop him if that was the case, right? I don't think it's a bad idea. I do think that it's really cool, but it definitely had to be before Batar conquered the mortal.
I think the thing with the dragons is like they aren't a unified power.
No.
And maybe this is where like it forces their hands, where it's like, because if I'm a human and I'm clearing the lands for my people and whatever, that's the classic, right? Humans versus nature, and just a conquest that way. It has to come to a head at some point.
Yeah.
So how does that, like, in our minds, is it dragon cults? Is it just dragons themselves? I mean,
for me, I'm not the big fan of the dragon cults. Honestly, I think it would just be.
I don't. Neither do I.
I think it should just be 5 people that are the strongest of their groups or clans, whatever like that, whatever humans. And if dragon can use shards, through generations of time, after taking shit from dragon for years and years and years, they slowly but surely accumulate enough shards where they get to a person in their dynasty or generation or whatever like that can actually go toe to toe with the dragon. They all meet and then they say, okay, you have 10 shards, I have 10 shards, I have 10 shards, and then I think it would start somewhere like each of them kind of group together and they actually do defeat a dragon. It'd probably be like the first time in history mortals have defeated a dragon. That's just my thoughts.
What if then that the catalyst for the Dark Age is partially because we went to war with this dragons, whatever, but that it really is that then there starts to be infighting between the people who like clan A, B, C, D, whatever, like we're gonna get together, we're gonna accumulate our power to fight this joint threat, which is this dragon, and then dragon's defeated, and now it's like, well, why look how powerful I could be if I had all of the shards instead of just the 10 I started with. And then that can be the, you know what I mean?
Well, I remember the black shard idea that you had, and I know you. What if those are like extracted from dragons?
So you're saying
it becomes a matter of the humans rise against dragons. And maybe it's like an Archduke Ferdinand situation where they kill one just because of whatever, and they realize like, oh, we extract the dragon heart, and it's like a supercharged shard. And then the greed of man, the classic story, greed of man, they're like
start hunting dragons relentlessly.
And then the dragons are like, oh, hell, we can't have this. And then it's,
I think that's one. I think that's a cool idea, especially for
because that could be a plot hook, right? Later down, it's like, let's go hunt dragons.
And my only thing is this: it would definitely have to be. Okay, so
It's not an
hero-
easy feat.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
it would have to
no,
be
no, no.
like
Like
an army of people.
yeah. No, I like the idea, and I think it could work, especially when you consider, that after the Batar he died, whatever like that. People start spinning with sharks, getting more and more powerful. Then they start fighting stronger and stronger things. Like, okay, first we fight each other. Then we start fighting cyclopses, and then you start fighting griffins and drakes and wyverns. And once humans found out they can kill something, you do it until someone tells them to stop.
Because ultimately, the question you're answering is how do you explain away a very powerful dragon, right? Like that. How do you make that not be just like, and then the dragons took over the end, because that's really what you're looking at. So that is ultimately the question. How you answer the question can be a variety of ways, like we've talked about. But at the end of the day, you have to decide, like, how is it that the dragons didn't just totally take over?
It's got to be an Achilles heel.
Yeah, no. So we have several options kind of presented. Okay, so we have one dragon cult. I think that was not. We kind of did on one. So we have the shard idea with the shards being in the heart of these dragons, or some shards. And honestly speaking, no. Okay, so no, I scrap that. So there's shards in the hearts of these dragons, and then they eventually some group kills one, finds that out, and then wham bam, thank you ma'am, dragon war.
It could be a territory thing, right? Like, we need to clear out the southern plains. There's a dragon. This is their territory. And let's kill it just because of convenience, and we need this area. And then,
Yeah. And that could explain why they're so big, right? Because if you're part of your lore is that the dragons are bigger or more powerful or whatever than the sort of traditional dragon, then maybe that's why, right? Like maybe
maybe they don't feed like we think. Maybe they feed off the shards.
So
like they make their den or their abode where the shards are, and then somehow men find out about it.
Have y'all seen the show on Netflix about the Dota show with the dragons? Have y'all seen that? Okay, so okay, so dragons are like these primordial forces of energy. They kind of just sleep until they wake up and get hungry and start eating everything. So my thing is this: if they are there like beings of just shard like power, they probably wouldn't even need to eat in general. They probably just exist as primordial forces of shards in general. So they probably don't need to eat, and the reason why they're so big because from their birth. So then at that point it becomes, are these things do they just not age? Or do they just exist, but they just don't they don't replenish their number like.
Yeah, I love that idea of that they're these primordial creatures that, they're almost like, like you said, it's like a force of nature. Maybe it's dragons of tempest, and it's not just like, in D&D where there's a bunch of different flavors and they take on, it literally is the dragon of this element, or whatever, and it's the embodiment of that from the world.
You could also have that there might be a difference between like a dragon and a shard dragon, right?
Yeah.
Like you could
That's true.
make that distinction.
That's the elder dragon. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a fucking great idea.
Yeah, once they become
I have them occasionally.
Yeah, maybe once they become the
awesome.
ancient worm, they go into this slumber, and it's like
Yeah.
what's
covet
the thing?
the shards.
What's the thing? The chrysalis.
Yeah.
They go into this hibernation state.
That is-
And maybe that's so that how you can kind of explain how ultimately like the dragon war kind of ended was like they go underground, right? The remaining dragons that aren't murdered or whatever go underground, and they hibernate for 5,000 years or whatever it is, and like we go about our business. Other people rise to power, and there's this, that, the other, and then now in the present day. Like there's now rumors happening that like, we've seen like wyverns or maybe like young dragons, like, you know, sort of normal ones around, but like, oh, like a big dragon was spotted over these mountains, like whatever.
Have a shard fall from the sky.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the you missed that's the origin story essentially.
Right.
So
The,
yeah. No, but
yeah,
That can be like a hook, right? Is that like there's
Mm-hmm.
now rumors of like that there's now a dragon resurgence because they're starting to come out of
All right.
hibernation. or
All right.
so
whatever.
I think it sounds like we
That's
have a
pretty cool.
direction we want to go. So let me get it in writing. So second era, this is the Great Dragon War, whatever we call it, Great Dragon War. This happens for 100 years, 200 years.
That
what are we
works.
talking about?
100 years works.
All right, we'll say 2501 to 2601, whatever calendar we're using. Let's see. Kingdom of Men kill a dragon, an elder dragon. Realize that they have super shards. We'll figure this out.
we'll do
Super
that later.
shards in their hearts, looking to capitalize. They begin a conquest against dragons.
You probably need to determine like what does the shards do for the humans or for the men.
Yeah, we have got that. Oh, you mean
He already built the mechanics for something.
okay,
and
okay,
I think
cool,
I think we kind of scrapped it, but then but basically, don't they?
Well, no, we didn't have the
Because
idea.
they gotta want it, right?
Like,
once they get it, it has to do
we
something for
strapped
them.
the origin story of Chark, but they still do what they do, right? So
I thought those black shards.
oh,
were
the
special
black
ones that
shards,
you-
we
yeah.
strapped those, but we didn't strap all of the shards to like what the normal shards do, right? They just exist as like these.
So
normal
Kingdom of
powers.
Men kill an elder dragon, vying for territory. It is revealed that their hearts are superpowered shards. Looking to capitalize, begin conquest against dragons. Dragons rise up. War happens. Earth is practically destroyed, or Dether is practically destroyed. It's practically destroyed. Human civilization. What are you talking about? Like reduced to Stone Age, Bronze Age?
No, not Stone Age. Probably Bronze Age.
To Bronze Age. Remaining dragons.
I don't think it like put them back. I just don't think they progressed past that point of that, right?
I was about to say because
Yeah, I
that
don't
means
think
you
they
like
regress
you had
back.
to target like all the people of
Yeah.
intelligence.
Yeah, like I don't think they regressed back per se.
Yeah, like how many? What of the population? Let's say there's 1 million people. What kind of casualties are we thinking?
like like at least half. I'm thinking at least half. Probably
Half
more.
the world is destroyed. Half,
Yeah, because the
dragons are
bubonic
hit.
plague
What
is like a
happened?
third. I think that this would be more because they can like whip up tornadoes and shit like that, and just destroy a city.
Yeah,
Like,
I
it
mean,
would be-
because you also have to think about there's the aftermath. Like the reason the bubonic plague killed as many people as it did was not just the plague itself, but also like the repercussions of a plague, which are things like famine and
yeah, trade routes
you
being
know,
gone, no trade
all
at
of
all.
like all of the extra things that also come with those sorts of situations. So you can say half the
Ooh.
population would not be out of the realm of
Yeah,
possibility.
yeah, I'll definitely say I think half's a good number. They don't want to be too small, but I think half of whatever the population was at the time, that's irrelevant, but just half the population. works.
Hey, what about this idea? I was just thinking about this. Let's say when the dragon dies or is killed, the other dragons who have the shards in them sense it. They can sense it and they come to claim it to do whatever rite or ritual they would do for one of their own that dies or has that. That could be also a tie-in to say they come to get it, it's not their men have taken it, and here comes the conflict.
I think that comes into conflict with the fact that they don't die by natural causes, and that this is the first time one is actually ever would have died would have been just from man's hands, right? That's
Well, but I see what he's saying. So, like, one of the younger dragons, when one dies, right? One is
Someone takes its place.
Someone takes its place. Maybe it's a ritual where a regular dragon becomes one.
But see, okay, so
But then you couldn't have the dragon be immortal. You could have the extended life, but it just couldn't be immortal.
For the I don't think it's necessary for the history of the world. We don't have to know that quite yet, but that is a kind of a cool idea as far as like a story hook. So ensuing war kills half the human population. How many dragons are killed in this? Even more? Just about the same?
I would say half is fair. Half, especially like if humans are getting like 40 to 50 shards, they start to reach dragon levels of power by themselves. So yeah.
So ensuing war kills half the human and dragon population, sending the world
and I have an
into
idea
a
too.
dark age.
So
Elder dragons, remaining elder dragons.
My thought about the elder dragons is that they just kind of went underground and went to sleep essentially. Like so, there are no elder dragons like
Escape.
Exist. Like not
And
exist, but like they just are not like above ground because they were
Readily accessible.
Yeah. So they definitely are slumbering somewhere deep in the Earth's.
And maybe
crust.
that's what it. Yeah, they rise up. They try. This war happens. Half of everything is killed, and then they go back and hibernate. Remaining elder dragons hibernate for the next
forever, because they're still asleep.
So that means all thought of them may have disappeared except for what's been written down or is counted as lore or.
Yeah. Because the dragons now have to be a different like power level because at that point the dragons in my mind are much weaker than the dragons that are right.
I wouldn't even call them dragons. Like
they're like great worms. So
Leviathans.
Well, now they're drakes. They're wyverns. They're like lesser than the whatever, and they can still exist. But
I think Drake is a better term to describe the dragon. I think that's right because like I don't use dragon because I think that's a bad faux pas kind of thing. This is Drakes, right?
I want to say dragonkin, but that elicits like dragonborn and stuff. But that kind of
so like it'd be dragon, Drake, wyvern, whatever, right? So scaling ladder. I think that works. All right.
Shards. Against spin. Ensuing war kills half humans, dragon population, sending the world into a dark age. Remaining elder dragons hibernate to regain power. Okay, and so that war happens for 100 years, and now we're into the third era, which is the Dark Age.
Yeah,
what we can call it, whatever.
The Dark Age. I mean, that worked. I mean, that's fucking. I mean, yeah. Think about it, right? The whole famine, and like that's what I'm saying. The famine, destruction of trade routes, destruction of dynasties, and even almost like ownership of land, barbarism.
And stuff. This is where you can now have the reason for why the different regions are now more
diverse.
separate and like very sort of nationalistic almost is because they didn't have the means to travel as much as maybe they did previously, and they lose that tie to each other.
An evolutionary bottleneck, right? So that's why they're distinct. Whatever families got left over, those traits kind of just they're, I don't want to say inbred, but you're breeding within the same trait. Essentially. So how long is that? Are we talking 5,000 years? How many generations? Because 2,500 was 83 generations.
It's 30 years per generation.
So it had to be several to have like biological differences of like melanin and
so
hair
if you
stuff.
say 100 generations is 3,000 years, or do you want more than that?
I mean, I think 100 generations is fine. You can kind of, I think that 100 generations, I think that's fine. Right?
To get those kind of changes, you're probably looking at about 10,000.
I mean,
probably millions.
It's millions. Yeah, real evolution takes much longer.
But as far, but my thing is as far as like just.
Well, 3,000 years is as long as the first era of men. Does that seem right, or should it be double that?
Okay. So 83 generations was the first era of men, right?
About 2,500 years.
I feel like it should be a lot longer than if that's the case, because Because they didn't change in the first era. They didn't really change like ethnicities or anything like that. They were just people at that point, right?
So do you want to double it? 6,000 years?
Is that long enough for like people to just be like
I mean, no.
people here?
Realistically, no. It takes millennia to make
But in
that
the
happen.
fantasy world, it can be 3
But-
days.
But also, those people could have those physical traits could have already existed.
But they weren't separate people, air quotations, until after the Dark
Yeah,
Ages.
I think it exacerbated it because
yeah, and they would just
everyone
have had
died.
more communication. They would have had, trade across oceans as opposed to just like local.
now
like,
it's
land.
isolated.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying now. So you're saying, okay, they weren't as in like like nationalists. They were just like people. They were just humans.
Yeah.
And then the ones that because I think all boats have been fucked by the dragon that they destroyed, right?
Right.
So they're just landlocked. They just over 6,000 years become their own people.
Because we talked about
Yeah,
last time how they all
would really all look alike.
Yeah, and they like we would, they would, yeah. I mean, realistically, like the differences in skin tone and complexion and hair and all that. That takes many,
years.
many.
I would just say
thousands
that
of years.
that biodiversity existed. It's
Yeah,
just
it has to exist.
Yeah.
If that doesn't make any sense.
before.
So yeah,
Yeah,
so you
it's
just
just-
kind of got to roll with it that this is not like literal evolution.
Yeah, but
But-
Culturally though, if you say like the first 80 odd generations was like them conquering it, like they would have still had those roots to Batar and those like same, like we all have this sort of like shared history and connectivity that then gets lost because of just distance and separation.
Okay.
And when that happens, when after cataclysms, like that's when you really see people sort of you circle the wagons, right? And so now you become these sort of more isolationist, nationalistic
Nomadic.
peoples.
yeah,
Right.
and also too, like when I was saying they probably would get sent to a Stone Age type situation. Yes, there exists some engineers and some scholars, but the infrastructure that housed their histories and all that probably got destroyed. So it exists in like some pockets. That's what happened during the actual Dark Ages. There's some
Yeah.
monasteries that kept it, but the majority of people, it became a survival mode, right? It's like
Yeah. So that means you go into factions, strongest survive. Whoever
Yeah,
has the most power is going to rule.
then that
people
would
are
have
roaming,
to expend
living
the time,
hand in
though.
mouth.
Like I feel like okay, because if you go from that to like the infrastructure of how the world is set up today, that seems like a long time. Like
Well,
long.
But
it's a
time.
but it's
gradient.
not.
It feels like a. But
It feels like it is, but really,
but-
I mean, think about it. Look in the last 100 years.
but we're not
in
facing
terms of,
like,
like-
lizard folk and like things trying to like.
Well, of course not. This is the
Yes.
fantasy version of this. But like
Right.
realistically speaking, like we went from horse and buggy to self-driving cars in a very short period of time when you
Right.
consider like the history of humanity, right?
well,
And so it does. So time is kind of. It's not. It doesn't have to be a like humans really haven't been around that long when you think about like the history of the world, and yet like
I
built
I
stuff.
think the Dark Ages of, let's say, 6,000 years, it happens on a gradient. The first
Mhm.
100 years are very different from the back 6,000. At the very end. I think it's things are coming together, but then the next era, the era of 3, is where we see like kind of in the same way that the first kingdom of men kind of went and tamed the world. The era of 3 brought religion and culture and blah 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 to the rest. You know what I mean? They brought essentially Western culture. They went and colonized everybody else.
And this is true to life, because when you look at ancient civilizations, like let's talk about the Greeks, for instance, like when you think like Greek culture, you think like the philosophers and all of these sort of like Plato, Aristotle, Socrates kind of situation. But that was the golden age. That was many generations after a very, very dark period of lots and lots of wars. And once the wars settled down, like people don't create art, they don't create culture and religion and build pretty things unless they feel safe.
Safe and secure.
I mean, that's
or
when
they
art
do, but it
happens.
doesn't last because
Right.
someone just comes by and stomps
and
on your
destroys
temples.
it, right? And so everything has to be like travelable. And then when you feel settled and you have now leisure time, that's when like beautiful things and culture and art are created.
So let's say the Dark Age, it's 6,000 years where humanity and the denizens of Dithra survive, rebuild, and attempt to come back from the ashes of war. It is slow and painful, but pockets of civilization begin to sprout in the north, west, south, and east.
So in all directions.
And the West is the one that starts to thrive. They start to collect shards again. They start to do, and that's what builds ultimately to those three.
It's a period marked by feudalism.
So are the shards not the dragons, or there's dragon heart shards and there's other shards?
So both can be true at the same time. So the dragon's hearts can be shards, 1, 2, but shards are not only tied to dragons. They're tied to the creator of the world. But I do agree that dragons have the shards of dragons being hearts. I think that's kind of cool. I want to distract, but I do think that probably some of the more powerful shards, most powerful ones, will probably be tied to potentially dragons. But that's a different point.
So it's slow and painful, but pocket civilizations begin to spread out all over the world. It's a period marked by feudalism, war for resources, and the rise and fall of would-be emperors. There's going to be these small little kingdoms.
Yeah.
They pop up, they fall apart, but then eventually. So we'll just leave that. It's just a blanket statement of just people are trying to rebuild.
Yeah,
it ebbs and flows. Things are trying to build over 6,000 years, but the next true era, that's like the big culture that sweeps across, is the era of 3. And then we kind of got into that. We know it's an oligarchical theocracy.
Yep.
There you go.
Led by the father, the mother, and the child. And then that's only where we got. So we said that this is, how long did this era of 3 happen? Are we talking a span of?
As far as the essentially it's the golden age of the Western Empire, or the Western country. I would say until their golden age ends, I would say somewhere between 200 to 300 years.
So when you say the father, mother, and the child, that means all of those different ones are making decisions?
Yes.
It's a theocracy.
Wouldn't last long in my world. I would have killed that kid.
Well, the thing about it is
oligarchies have happened. It's very, very Greek oligarchy.
Yeah.
It's part of, I think it's part of the religion. So the idea was their religion is, the ideology is like the creator crashed into the planet, broke into 3 pieces, and they are trying to reunite the 3 pieces.
And kind of where the 3 comes from, because the 3, so the child can change from male to female kids, but it is they see this as the continuation of life and the continuation of the creator, that even though you give life, you must also go back to earth and die, and then the cycle. So it's the cycle of giving your experience, wealth, all the things to your kid or to the new generation to come forth from the ashes of your generation to make a better place for the world, kind of thing. And that's
this is just the first era of the era of 3, because I imagine now it
changes.
There's a mother, a father, a child for every
generation,
shift of power or whatever.
And not all generations will be good.
No. So let me explain the whole child thing too. Okay, so think, right? When people have shards, they have an extended lifespan. So the child, they might be 140 years old. Their kid is like 115, right? But they still be considered the child in that kind of oligarchical kind of stance, right? Because they were, so in my mind, how it usually kind of worked was usually like in Western kind of culture, there's groups of families, and usually in my mind, how I think it should be is the strongest family is voted in to take on the role of the mother, father, and the child, and then their strongest child, because they had multiple kids, because that's this life. The strongest kid would take on the role of the child, and then they would lead the Western Empire into their death, essentially. Um, so that's kind of was my thoughts about it. That's kind of how far I got on that idea. You can play with that idea, but that's kind of the basis of it. Not sure what you caught and didn't caught, John, but I can reiterate a little bit as well.
I had my headphones on.
Okay.
So this new religion springs up in the West with, and they've got a ton of resources behind it, right? This is the breadbasket of the world. Ton of resources behind it. So what's their goal at this point? So when we think of this first era of
spread their religion or their beliefs.
Yeah, is it just proselytizing?
It is to unite.
Full Inquisition style.
Well, no. So it's not like a process like by force. It's literally just a unification. Like wars, they do fight and stuff like that. Of course, that happens. But it's not like a crusade or something like that. It is literally they see people starving and things like that, and because they have so much wealth, they just use it by force. It's like, okay, you're starving. Do you want to starve over there in your little bandit keep, or do you want to join us? We have food. And
so it's kind of like the
roads.
What the heck?
So what do they do when they come across?
You get your 40 acres and a mule. You have to bend the knee. We'll give you these parcels of land. But this is what you have to do. Is that the idea?
So that would only apply in the Western Empire. Like once they expanded past that and went over to different countries, which would have happened, essentially they just supplied trade routes and infrastructure in these places, because they're also known for their masonry and skilled stonework. They provided infrastructure and actually trade to these places to get them jump started. Because until that point, like I said, it's just pockets of places, right? It's like Europe in like the 12th century, it's like 36 countries, right?
So we're saying that in the era 3, the West was already established with these resources. This is just a period of kind of like the East India Trading Company, where they spread across the world, and
the tail end of the Dark Ages when they kind of got together.
The economic might is what,
and they leverage it across the entire plane, using their religious and economic. Because once you form a religion, it becomes more than just economic. You have zealots and stuff.
So I have a question then, because you keep saying like the religion, because we talked about it being a theocracy, but what is the religion? Because that I'm unclear on.
Okay, so the religion is that they believe that once they gather all the shards together, then the Creator God
they will bring the Creator back. Got it. Thank you. That's what I needed clarification on.
Yeah. So that's the main thing, right?
But
the other
that's the main thing. So it's a theocracy, therefore they govern their people with these ideals. So what are the ideals in their everyday life that is
so
seeing this come to fruition?
They probably worship the shards.
They do, but not like they like law. The shards is more of they hold rituals, especially esoteric kind of like strange sacrifices, things like that to these shards, to give praise to them. It's almost like Aztec-y, but not. They don't just sacrifice people, but.
Well, and it would also be, you said not crusady, but it's a little crusady, right? In the sense that like
economic might.
If our purpose is to collect the shards, then collecting the shards becomes your your purpose in life is to find shards, is to go out and gather and bring them back. So that,
I think that is fair. I think that because if they're going around collecting shards, the people would have shards, they wouldn't want to give them up, no matter how many.
That's the main thing. Is like, what is their primary motivation as a society? So the main purpose, everything is for the gathering of shards. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be
by
violent.
Force. Yeah, they would lead with violence. That's the thing. They wouldn't lead, but they would if you had one. Especially in that time, they probably would just take it.
Like if we find out that this random ass village has a shard in their possession, and it's like, okay,
well, you would know because it would probably be kind of prosperous. If it had a shard, right?
Well, no. So it depends, right? So shards have a variety of powers, not just like life, but also destruction, manipulation. So it can be all kinds of stuff, right? So you could have a shard of death and it just be a plague or something like that, right? But
Or one that just glows.
Yeah.
But definitely
Yeah.
don't build a village there.
so the thing it would be like I do think if
There's probably ignorant people who just don't know what they have.
yeah no,
yeah,
I
or
imagine.
don't know how to use
because
it.
shards look different. Like shards do not look like every other shard. Some shards look different. Some are different sizes. I mean, it's not like vastly different sizes, but you might see
It
one that's
could even
marble.
be that there's like a shard buried in the ground somewhere, and this village just happens to have like really good crops there, and they don't know why. It's just we got lucky.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah,
now
okay,
that
yeah.
and like the root of it is like there's a shard in the well or whatever, and that's why their water heals people, or like you know,
Yeah.
and so because that's also just thinking future for like plot hooks. That could be something too, where it's like you hear about this village with like you know water that heals people magically, and then you know you find out it's because there's a shard and you've got to like extract it somehow. But like, so it could be that people
Yeah, that's
don't
gonna be a
know-
problem.
right? That people don't know that they have a shard in their possession because it's not really in their hands, right? It's like in the land, in the rock, in the whatever.
Yeah, I don't think that's how Val intended it, but I think that's a great idea for the way that we find them, Val. Because, yeah, I think they have to manifest themselves in some way. Otherwise, it's not like we have a Dragon Ball radar where it's like find the shards, or you know. I think that's a great way. Okay, so the
And
era.
the other thing about those factions is, especially when you're talking about different powers and people, you know, forming their own groups, is the biggest thing that people with power fear is losing it. So it doesn't matter how good your ideal is, they have to choose to want to go to it.
Oh, you got to give
And-
them an offer they can't refuse too.
Right?
It's like
And if you
Or it's going to be a
and if
war or a
you
fight of some
won't-
kind.
Right. If you don't
Right.
join us, like you'll be forced to be free. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think so I'm definitely fine with how shards. Well, I'm fine with the crusading part of the thing.
there's going to be some part of it.
Yeah, no,
it may not
that-
be
that's-
like the main thing, but there's always going to be some fanatical group.
No. That's fine. I think that totally makes sense. I think they would probably offer them. So to tie it up, I do think that even if they did take it by force and kill all of them, they probably would still like leave them like a land rent or like I'm not sure what it's called. You know what I'm talking about? Like the government buys your land like 150%.
Eminent domain.
Eminent domain kind of thing. So they'll
This
just
is
take your
ours
shard
now.
and they'll just give you what they think is worth, just off principle kind of thing. But they would still kill the person that had it, and if you didn't want to try to stop them. But for me with the whole shard thing, the reason why I'm so tied to them having to be activated by force thing and be found, because I don't want the world to become too magic-y, right? And I think that, and if there's 1,000 shards around the place just existing, the world will become like filled with vibrant magic, and I would take kind of some of the feel out of it. for me.
1,000 is nothing, and if some of them are mundane or hidden underground or not near anywhere, like
But they're not okay. But they're not mundane. They do have like they are very powerful, right? They're not like this, you know.
yeah, but
Like-
some of them could be in places
Different
where
power
there
levels.
aren't any people.
That's true. I'm not saying that. I'm just
But
saying
my
that.
thing is like, practically, how would anyone ever find them? You just
You just find the shard. That you just find it. That's
I think that's a little. I think yeah, but I think you're a little like wild goose chasey. You risk that if it's too opaque. You know.
Got to be some way to sense it. or
someone
something
already
like that.
has it, or it's pure dumb luck, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, but okay. So if it was just okay, and I see what you're saying here. If,
Oh, you got
if it
that
was
big ass
just-
crop circle over there.
Okay, hold on, now, hold on. So I see what you're saying. If it's like, for me, I do like the idea of it just being like, oh, you can just discover a shard. And it's not like like a ding ding, like here's a thing kind of alert kind of thing. Like, oh, like the city's on fire. There must be a shard here. Let's go there. Whatever that. I think I like the idea of it being just, oh, you just found the shard. I think that's the kind of the feel of it, that kind of Tomb Raidery, that kind of like there isn't a thing. You just have to like hear rumors about hidden.
But how
nooks
would
and
anyone? How would that's the thing? How would they know?
undiscovered places? Oh, they found a cave that they didn't discover. Let's explore. Like people do these things, right? So if almost all,
Not if I'm thinking Dethro where you die and it's
No,
like let
what?
me just go check out this cave.
well, like if you're a
with no
sharp,
good reason.
if you're a sharp bearer, and most of the world has been mapped out, or at least enough of it has, then the shards that haven't been discovered yet, where would they be at? And the places no one's been yet, right? That's
Yeah,
the
but
thing, right? That's
I
what
think
I'm arguing.
it doesn't have to be it's healing water, but it could be subtle effects where it's extremely lush or this mountain range is known to be frosted over. It's extremely dangerous.
And an
you get there, a
aurora
shard-
borealis flashes over this place at night.
Or it doesn't
Anything.
have to be these super powerful thing, but something that like makes that cave mysterious enough for me wanting to go there. Just
Okay.
enough. It
I
doesn't
mean,
have
because
to be.
otherwise it's like holes, right? Where you're just digging a hole and hoping
Yeah.
you find something, and now you're gonna dig another hole and find
The
something.
dwarves will find it
I
first.
think,
Like,
Okay.
I think
mean,
there's a compromise somewhere in there
Yeah.
where
Okay,
it doesn't
I can-
have to be
It
healing
doesn't have
water.
to be all or nothing. It can be sometimes
Okay.
it can be something a little more grandiose. Sometimes it's something more subtle. Sometimes it's just dumb luck, you know.
These people are known for their giant pumpkins. They've just got great.
Okay.
It's like, oh, it's
I
just,
will concede. Okay,
fertile
if
ground.
it's not, if it's not this like wondrous thing, like this, like ninjas are
they're
like,
worshiping it. or
there's like
something.
flying ninjas around, like, hey guys, we can all fly. 'Cause we were born here, kind of thing. Then yeah, as long as it doesn't get
It's just got to be just something enough to like, huh,
Okay, well,
that's
Like
kind of
why go there
interesting.
and not somewhere else, right? Like you want something to be able to latch onto. So there's got to be something where it's not just like I'm not just like knocking on every door
I concede this point to the judgment
hoping
thing
to find
because
something.
in my heart of heart, I'm like, dude, just find the shard. Just let it for me. But I can see if it makes sense. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. It makes sense. So I'll concede that point. It's fine. It's fine.
All right. So the era of three, new religion springs up in the West with the purpose of gathering shards. They leverage their economic might through trade across all four continents, spread their influence. What about these people, Heinrich, Grunhilde, and Gainer? What are they doing?
They're the three.
Are they the
Yeah.
last three? Are they the first three? Are they somewhere in the middle?
They're the first three.
Okay.
They're the
And then
first
so it's just this period marked with expansion, right? And then like their culture spreads because obviously they're exporting and all that.
Absolutely.
And that's it. What
No.
marks the end of it? So that's what I'm asking.
What?
What?
Mark the end. So other people get tired of getting fucking controlled by a imperialistic faction essentially, right? Because their base is in the West, so it's almost an America kind of thing. Where the next, I'm not sure if the fourth one is the
The next one is the current era or the Ironbound Emperor. So maybe it's ended. They expand into the Southlands. Their influence starts spreading, and then the Ironbound Emperor is like, "Nah, bro, this is my land, and I'm going to unite my people. Get the fuck
The West
out."
has been powerful for too long. It's
Yeah.
time the South will rise again. That sounds
Yeah,
bad. But that's
basically.
holy.
Yeah, and she's the conqueror of the Iron Mountains and all that stuff. Where it's like, your influence stops here, and maybe the South and the Eastern archipelagos. That's where they're like, yeah, you need to get off our shit.
I think
That's the current era.
Is that four errors or five?
that's five.
Okay.
So we've got to recap. We've got the first era, Kingdom of Men, year 1 to 2500. Second era is the Great Dragon War. That's 100-year war. Third era is the Dark Age, 6,000 years of rebuilding. The era of three, it's 200 years of where these guys just start influencing, taking over, colonizing, spreading their influence. And then the current era, so the current era we said started 250 years ago.
It should be an era between those because it had to be a fall. If they're only a fucking golden age, it doesn't just end like that, like you're saying, right? It had to be something. And just one person does not.
I think 200
separate-
years is Yeah,
well,
I think
mean,
200
but
years is probably not
when you
enough.
think about the way eras are marked, it's done after the fact. It's not like the people living in it are like, we are now in the industrial age.
Yeah, yeah.
And now we are in
Wait.
something
Yeah,
else.
no,
Like,
I get that. Yeah, no, I
you
get
know,
that, yeah.
so so we come up with like hard, like it stops here and it starts here. But in real world land, like it was all kind of mushy gushy for the first 50. Like they're the first 50 and the last 50 of anything that bleeds into whatever came before or after.
It could be simple as the
Well-
Ironbound Empress drives them out of the south and the eastern archipelago. Maybe there's an alliance. We went through most of it, but maybe there's an alliance. Now the era ends because their expansion kind of stops.
And then they got pushed out of the north too, then, because they would have regressed back to the west. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Is that if the influence is all over the world, how do we get from all over the world in 200 years to now they're just in the west now?
They could still be in the north.
Okay.
I think it's okay if they're still somewhere. Maybe they're in the eastern archipelago. I don't know. I think just if you're looking at the geography, that one makes the most sense. Or like get off the islands because they have influence there. But the north, maybe they just never did a lot of business with the north to begin with. Look at it; it's impenetrable Arctic.
That's fair. That is okay.
You know,
That's fair. It's cold as shit,
Like
right?
maybe
Okay.
they did a little bit, but those people
Yeah, because like okay.
drove them out.
I mean, there's a
Oh,
reason,
okay.
right? Like when you think about colonialism in real history, like there's a reason it was all of like the little itty bitty little European countries because they didn't have enough space. So it was those people who were like, we got to go out and find resources because we don't have any here. Like the Aztecs didn't need to go anywhere; they had everything they needed. China didn't go anywhere; they had everything they needed.
They just filled their borders and kept.
Yeah, and so it was like their immediate vicinity, but it was like the world powers were all European because they needed to be. They
I see
didn't
what you're
have the
saying,
resources themselves.
No, I
Especially
mean,
the English is like untillable land.
And itty bitty, it's this big.
I mean, look at Denmark, just pure sand. Yeah, no, it makes sense
So
because
maybe
if you look at the map here, okay, so if you look at the map here, then yeah, because this is fucking desert, and yeah, this is like a tundra, right? So I see what you're saying now. Like
maybe
you have
they
to go-
tried.
Yeah, and it failed.
We know the Northmen. They don't take prisoners. They drove them off.
That
They
makes
said,
sense.
"Screw it. These
I
island
see what you're
people,
saying,
these island people are stupid. We're gonna dupe them for their shards." And the South. Maybe they subjugated the South, and that's where the Ironbound Emperor said, "No
I
more."
think definitely subjugating the South. I think that makes sense. In the
Especially because
context
of the
that.
iron, that's how you make weaponry. And so if we need your resources to make our weapons, and then she's finally like, screw you, dude, we're gonna keep our stuff for
Yeah,
ourselves.
what did
Yeah,
we
but-
say
yeah,
the
but-
resources were?
in the West, they
iron
don't have-
deposits, obsidian, diamond.
Yeah, because in the West they have copper, but they don't have tin. Tin is in the North, so they can't make bronze weapons, right? And bronze are typically air quotations better than iron. So they were trying to. So it makes sense if
They can make steel.
Unless you have carbon.
Yeah, but they ain't.
Iron ore and carbon make steel.
Yeah, but they ain't at that point yet.
That's
Not no like
steel
major.
is very rare in this
Yeah,
world.
and it's
That's how
and
we're-
the quality of steel, you might get like 20% steel trading, right? So no, but okay, that makes sense though. They pushed it south. They would have found enough leverage there, especially if they go like.
By the way, carbon is the most biggest resource we have.
Yeah, this is just burn some trees.
Just dead trees.
Yeah, I know. I get. I'm not saying they didn't have access to carbon. I'm just saying that
They didn't put it together yet.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it's
just
the
a
way-
process. It's like
Yeah,
it's
it's the
Alchemy's
process
not a
itself.
thing yet.
no, but
Yeah.
it's expensive as shit to make steel though without the like the
Well,
bell.
they
belling
didn't have
right?
ways to. Yeah, they just didn't have ways to get it hot enough to extract it. They had blooms, iron blooms, and it just wasn't.
If you look at iron, if you look at steel from back then, it's like
The steel from back then was
It's like-
created by like expert craftsmen. Like the Japanese would have to.
and even still, it's not the best quality steel. Like it's still not the
They'd
best. Quality.
have to hammer it out 2,000 times, folding it just to get it.
Yeah, it's not
And
the
that's
best
like
steel.
late era.
And
Anyway.
that's not even the best steel either. That's not even like 100%.
Damascus
yeah.
voted
Yeah.
21 times.
It's not
Yeah,
like,
and by hand with a freaking charcoal.
yeah,
Like no,
yeah,
that
yeah,
wasn't.
This guy's a fucking Minecraft charcoal trying to make Damascus steel. Like, all right, you know what I'm saying? What are we talking about here?
All right, so hold
All
on. Let's go. So let me make a couple notes. So they leverage their economic might through trade across 4 continents to spread their influence. They mostly conquer the Southlands and the Eastern Archipelagos until the era of the Iron-Bound Emperor.
She's a bad chick, guys.
And then,
She was pregnant and fighting people.
and then I think we just have to. So,
It's crazy.
current era, which we didn't give a name yet. This is just the.
I thought it was the current era, right? This is 5, right?
Yeah, the iron era is still
Yeah, that's what
we never gave it an official name.
Oh.
The
We
now.
We gave Amani the Iron-Bound Emperor.
title. We never gave the name.
Yeah.
Era of the Iron-Bound Emperor sounds badass as shit to me. I'm not sure about you guys. What do y'all think about that? That sounds. I don't know. I could be wrong. Iron-Bound Emperor sounds cool.
How about
as
the
shit.
Iron-Bound Empire? She's an emperor. She's got to have an empire.
That
So
works,
Amani,
man.
the Iron-Bound Emperor, who gathered 50 shards,
Ish.
created the Southern Republic. I'm going to put comma.
We need a name for that.
Rising up and fighting off the Westerners. She lived 169 years.
Which seems low for 50 shards, honestly speaking.
200. Well, we change it.
That seems low, honestly.
269 years.
We said the whole era is 250 years, so
It should be long. It should be, because if she has 50 shards in her
So
life,
500?
yeah, that works.
How many years? How many years per shard? How many years per shard?
Okay, let's just say she lives to be about 350 years. The era is 500 years, and that's
Okay.
all right.
that works.
Because that's the nice thing.
Yeah,
Because we were doing it the other
yeah.
way. We could just push the timeline.
Yeah. Well, I think 169 seems low.
So
We
this
have
is-
50
this is,
shards. Like, you know.
you
She
know,
has 34
one-
kids.
What is that? 9,300?
Yeah.
500 years. All right. So the year is 9,300.
9,300.
9,300.
9,300, dude.
So
Don't worry about it.
Amani, the Ironbound Emperor, who gathered 50 shards, created the Southern Republic, rising up and fighting off the Westerners. She lived to 350 years of age. Conquered the Iron Mountains. Upon death, she handed down the shards amongst her 34 children. She had 2 husbands, feared, ruled with an iron fist, killed a lot of lizard folk. Those are just my
Yep.
bullet points. We can.
Yeah.
So okay, so she killed lizard folk, drove out the Westerners,
And united the Southern Empire. You forget that part. She
united the Southern Empire,
And made
she
allies
also-
with the Eastern Archipelago?
Yeah, we have that in there. Yeah.
allies with the because we need to get them out of there too, which ended the previous era, Eastern Archipelago.
That'll do.
Cool. I'll clean up some of these notes.
All right.
Cool. So that's the world history timeline. Do we feel good about that?
That works. That worked. I mean, what do you guys think? I think it's
That
good enough to where
spans 9,300 years.
that'll work.
It's almost 10,000 years of history. Just I think it's good enough for us to build,
Yeah,
play with.
because if
in the
not,
game.
I will personally make like 46 errors, and I need to not do that. So
Okay. So let me go, because we're still in cultures and history. I don't even remember what question spurned all
Let
this.
me.
so-
It was. Hold on. Let me check my handy.
We kind of mushed them all together.
Yeah, because some of it's already been
Yeah, it
established.
kinda blended,
which
right?
cultures still have impact. Which conflicts are crucial? We already have that.
Yeah,
Have
I
been
mean,
external influence.
How the
Nope.
colonists have this. Yeah. So.
Deities and all that. Okay,
Yeah.
we can go to society and religion. So this is a more granular look from where we were.
Okay. So, but I think we did. I don't know if I'm crazy. I think we did miss like wars and stuff, right? Like notable wars, or was that in there too?
Well, the transition periods are the notable wars.
Okay. I don't know what wars are.
Do you
apparently,
want
guys.
more?
No,
Do you
no,
want
that's-
more than that?
No,
we can
no,
we
but-
can start
Wars
peppering
within
in
the
stuff.
No,
within the
no,
eras.
You guys are good. We're
It's
fine.
gonna get
We'll-
crazy.
Yeah, we'll,
You can do that in
we'll-
game
yeah,
where it's like,
I will do
the
that.
war of.
Yeah, let's get to the
The
basics.
rose.
Sorry,
So okay,
guys.
we are society, religion. I think culture and history.
It's done. I think that's done for now. And anything else?
Society and religion, we kind of already have the social stuff built. That was kind of the original walkthrough. Remember?
yeah, but
about,
we need,
I don't
like,
have it
the sub-
here.
Yeah, but I think we do need the the different offshoots of the religion, right? Because it's not just the Western the main thing. It's also different variants
Yeah.
of that, right?
So let's look
Like
at
the
how
main-
are
the main
societies
ones.
organized? Are they loosely organized tribe, feudal state serfdoms?
We
How
have that.
homogenous are the various? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We have
So
that.
we already have the northern, western,
And that's in the
Eastern,
Deidre place
southern.
in the game. So we have
So
that.
how do we flesh this out? And
The
is
social
anyone
classes, right?
are there
Every-
different social classes
Depending on the country, yes.
for Jess and Assassination who aren't? We know we probably should do a run through of the
Yeah, we
general what it is.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to.
Let's go to a different server.
Yeah, let's go to Deidre, the actual world itself, and
We got some handouts.
hold on, we have handouts. Let me actually bring it up.
On the is that on the same roll 20?
No,
Yeah, I think
it's
it's
on a
on
different one.
Roll20. I
It's
think
on
you're
a-
in that server.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me give you the link. I feel if I exit out of this in Zoom, it's going to be it's going to mess the size of it up, right? I feel like it's going to do that. So let me just give you the link.
Let's do a new tab.
Yeah, I know this tab. Yeah, I'm just trying not to. Yeah, hold on a second.
Because we did this was our first exercise to just kind of get out of the way for player options, but it does cover.
Yeah, and if anybody here watching as well, too, guys, like world building, like collaborative in general, but especially collaboratively, like it is a deep process. If you want to so
We call those monumental tasks.
yeah, it takes time, guys. Like this, I mean, we're halfway done, but still. It's still like little like fleshy bits. And I'm getting you the link right now.
And so what I need you to do is remember, like don't get lost in the weeds, right? Like don't get lost in details that you can fill in later. You really want to think like what are the important things for this to make sense, and then you can kind of fill in the
build
blanks
around
as
that.
you go.
Yeah, and I actually think this satisfies this whole area for the most part. We might be able to add some additional things, but I think this satisfies it. But for you guys who aren't familiar
So
with each of the cultures.
yeah. I think it's important today to have some context at least. We can at least say it, especially the people that are watching. So, I think we went over this in part 1 too. Honestly, in the beginning, I feel like, but just to like give you like a little short kind of segue here. So like there's 4 groups of people. So you have Westerners. We said read it to you because I'm not going to break the framework here. So essentially, Westerners here, their setup is mainly so they're religious, tolerant, scholarly, enigmatic, hedonistic, and individualistic. I don't have a societal structure of like how, but basically they live in these almost like these clan houses, almost like a long clan house, like Vikings kind of style. And each clan or family has a large pig, and is very egalitarian kind of thing. There's no like, man, at least in the Western kind of thing, not everywhere, but at least here. People are valued more by how they contribute as far as religiously and scholarly than just physical might, and also do trade and stuff like that. So it's more based around large family structures. So that's kind of the Western kind of societal structure there.
Well, let's stick there because you glossed over some stuff, and I think some of the questions here because this doesn't talk about their families, and that's one of the questions. So,
Okay.
where was it? God dang it! How does the typical smallest social unit look like? Families, extended families. So we know that they have large families.
Mm-hmm.
When we say large families, are these multiple families intermarried? Is it just a clan? What do they call them?
So, I would say here is whoever. I haven't decided the who gives who away and who becomes what kind of thing, but
we don't need.
But it's like they do come together, they do blend together, right? So
they're extended families,
mm-hmm.
so large.
And it's a lot of open and inhabitable land in the West, so it's no problem for somebody to just build a house on the land, right?
So we're talking culture. So the large extended family. Who's head of the household? Is this? the man of is it?
It's pretty egalitarian, at least in the West. So it just depends on who they probably deem the best to lead, really. So it's not
So
really
what? So what value? What value do they have in that leader? Is it
religious kind of values, and also economic.
so the breadwinner, typically the person who can bring the most resources, regardless, is the head of household, regardless.
Yeah,
of
and
in
who's
general.
religious and all that stuff too.
But that's like, how do you show the most religiosity?
Bring the most if you do
Money.
If you don't,
Shelter and security. Whoever
is
can
that?
provide that
Resources.
will probably lead.
Values, resources. Head of home is the breadwinner. Cool. So we know that faith brings them together. That's question 46, is their faith. And their social, I guess, reason is just to go get shards and make money. We know how long they've listed societies lasted, and they're relatively a melting pot. We talked about that. They are open to outsiders.
Yeah,
at this point.
yeah.
They're
The
not,
Westerners are,
unlike
yes.
the Northerners who are xenophobic. These guys are like, yeah,
100%. They're very tolerant. That's one of their like cultural
tolerant to
tenets,
outsiders.
which is kind of interesting because they're religious as well.
Okay, so we know that they're large extended families. It's a theocracy of the three. Are there any other social structures? Are there ranks in the church, like cardinals and all of that stuff?
I mean,
bishops?
it would be, but I'm not sure. Do we want to make that now? I don't have that. That seems like a lot because you need like at least.
We don't
35.
need the specific rankings, but is there a
Yes, there is rankings in the church.
a religious hierarchy? Okay.
Yeah, it's very organized. 'Cause they run the country.
So do they run the country as a whole? But what do small villages look like?
So
Is there usually some kind of religious elder? Like, think of a hamlet or something
yeah,
like that.
no, I get you. So, I would presume that it would definitely be somebody that follows the religion leading the place. I would say yes. I would say yes.
Hierarchy, most small villages.
And that counts as well too. While he's writing that, they probably will be not probably. They're as far as the Western society as a whole, they're very well educated. Is in general. Because they seek knowledge so that they can the best and brightest can chase shards, right? And so it's really
value education and
but they also party a lot too.
Resources.
A lot.
Well, they got money.
They got food and resources. They don't have the fucking budget.
They're hedonistic.
They don't have the budget for resources as far as like.
I think all of that's kind of covered in those handouts.
Yeah, it really. So.
They're scholarly, society values science, history, and arcana, and the knowledge of the natural world. Hedonistic, they're self-indulgent and throw parties and festivals. So I think we got that. I think just the family structure, how they rule themselves, who's the head of the household.
So then let's go to Easton, right? So we need to go to Easton?
Yeah, so...
All right.
So we know the Eastern, what we've written. Where the heck is it? They
I popped it
are...
up. You can see it.
Assassination, are you in the server? There's a link in Zoom. So they're industrious. They're known. These are general ideas. Diligent, hardworking people. They value trade, craftsmanship, skills. Adventurous. They're known to travel across the open ocean, island to island, looking for resources. Opportunistic. They take advantage of every resource. Short-tempered. They got it. Quick to anger, quarrel, or fight. They're known to be manipulative. They're willing to bend the truth, and charm, and treacherous. They will betray you. And these things are not only like general like personality traits, but also like value. They think these things are also good.
This is a cultural thing. These things that they represent their culture. Because
being hot-tempered is like, if you're not that way, you're a little punk. You should be. You gonna take that? No, I'm not gonna take that.
You hit like a just punch the dude.
So I guess we asked the same question. So
So, I mean, as far as family structure, no. I mean, there's very little family structure at all. Like, once, I said this well too, once the child is old enough to build a boat, then they're old enough to go off and adventure.
is it independent? As in, like, I think American society is like very independent. Like the
Yeah.
family unit probably doesn't matter. It's like as soon as
18?
you're able to get out there. And do it.
Absolutely 100% matters. There's
Not
no
most
way this
people.
country gets protected without families.
Listen,
That's the only thing that does matter. When you devolve families,
But I
society
do,
I'm
but I
talking
do
about
think
But
when
like-
you
but
look,
like-
individualism.
but when you
It's-
do look at sort of more
the average of the
Protestant,
world.
anglicized American culture, where it's like you're 18 and like, all right, kick out of the nest. Versus
Your
when
value
you
in
look,
society is what you bring.
yeah. Versus when you look at
Other places,
like
people
Latin
get-
American culture or Black American culture or Asian American culture, where you have like extended families that live in the house for
Forever.
many generations, and like.
and everyone
Like
helps
grandma
each other.
moves in at some point, like you're expected to,
But that
no
depends on
one's-
how you describe a family.
yeah,
But-
yeah.
some
I
families
mean,
don't
it's
live with them
nuclear,
forever,
right?
but they're
Like
still
more
family.
like anglicized, like
saying
Protestant
is-
American is very nuclear. Mom, dad, children, dog.
It's the
and then
average,
they go out in the
right?
world.
So,
Versus other cultures, like you have extended family, and that's kind of expected. So I think that's the question being asked, right? Like,
Yeah. So they don't care about, like, as soon as they're able,
to build a boat.
it's individualism over anything else.
Hmm.
And so do they?
So they would have to be spread out then.
Yes, they
They
live
are.
on archipelagos. So
So I mean, so that means everybody's really an individual, so they could be conquered overnight
exactly.
because they have
So-
nothing to fight for.
I think the thing that keeps them safe is that they're these little
Self-sufficient.
islands that
They're
are a pain in
very-
the ass to get to too.
Well, it's not just that too, but they're also very self-sufficient, right? So think about, okay, so if you lead a siege here, then you have to take boats and go here, and
But where
they
you get your self-sufficiency from, you have to learn that from something. You have to learn that from somebody.
Yeah, it
Through
could
That's
be
like
survival.
family core.
Other
so
people.
until you turn 18, that's a family, right?
no.
It could be
Okay.
a village. It could be a clan. It could be
They-
an adopted guild.
That's what I'm saying. You can't survive without
Okay, it's not like Simba. He just dropped them off at 3. I'm saying, like, okay, until they build their first boat, they're a family, right? We stick together. I'll teach you what to do. After 10-ish, and they can build a boat, then they go off. So they do. So it's not like they're just kicked off to the wind when they're just like 5. From 0 to 10-ish, that's when they get all their family
Yeah,
structure. But after
I
that
don't think
point,
we're saying it's not like everyone has to have some kind of
live, right?
upbringing.
Yeah, you
But
gotta
I
eat
think when we're talking about this, like
on average.
an extended family, the whole thing is about the family unit, the pride of the family. This is, hey, I'm going to give you the tools. Go out there and make a name for yourself. Go get shit done. You will be the master of your own destiny, and we're not a part of it. It's not all about us getting chips stacking together. This is like you just doing the thing. And then, they are very spread out because they're living on islands. They're mostly pirates. They're opportunistic. And they're probably not going to conquer the world because they can't. There's a lot of infighting. So this is just how they are. But that's the idea anyway.
And also,
I think there's a form of government we talked about, sort of.
Yeah, it's a form of government, but as well too, and they're ran by a group of admirals, pirates. The strongest of their, I think it was the 5 or 10 strongest admirals or pirates basically form essentially a group that kind of controls the day-to-day operations of, well, not the societal operations. Like, okay, the southern people are trying to attack us. Should we blow their ships up or not? Because we're the strongest anyway, so we're gonna do it anyway.
And I think although family, can be part of it. I think most of their ties are like
to the crew
crews that
to the
they
crew.
build.
Yeah,
Which
the crew.
can be just
Becomes
whoever.
their family.
Yes.
But it's not like, as far as like real air quotations, real family. When I get triggered.
Yeah,
out
I
here.
don't think it's like unlike the Western where they plant, they set roots and stuff where it's like we're going to build from here and grow. This is like we're going to go all over the place, collect the best people, the best resources, and build momentum. I think it's just like they just have different ideas So okay, they're individualistic. When they're old enough to build their boat, they are they just sent off? They take off on their own? Is there a rite of passage? Like, how does that work?
So there would be a rite of passage.
Because
right?
you will
I think,
die.
Yeah, no.
There is
You not going to be around long.
there is a rite of passage. Okay, and also too, there's a rite of passage where they give you the things you would need and long enough to survive. And because the islands are so close together, right, that you should be able to go to different places, give you enough money to start to where you can hire people for your crew, and those that make it, you're good.
So what's the rite of passage look like? They build their first boat. Do they go join one of these big outfits that already exist? Like go make a name for yourself or go work for, I don't know. How many captains did we say there were? Like 7 or something?
It's like 5 to 10, I think, was the thing. And those are the big captains. There are other captains. Those are the people in charge kind of thing.
Join a crew. So you build your first boat. They give you the packet, like you get your first apartment, right? They give you some ramen noodles, some hand-me-down pots and pans. They say, peace out.
Godspeed, good luck. Here is a Target gift card.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Enjoy.
And it's so there's no like, is there any concept of like bringing it back? Or is it just go make for a name for yourself?
No. All they want to bring back is the reputation of your name, right? So if I'm your...
Is that the rite of passage? Go make a name for yourself and don't come back until you've done X?
Essentially, because most people don't see their families anymore until they're ever kind of thing, right? That's just it. They go out, they conquer, they pillage, they pirate, and make as much money as possible, and then if they would choose to, after making a name, they could.
10 years old seems extremely young, and I don't, these people.
I said 10-ish, okay, like teen-ish, okay. What I'm saying.
So I got a question.
A 10-year-old
about this culture,
can't
man.
do anything.
I got questions about this culture, man.
Okay.
So do the people who sire these kids, the men that sire these kids, do they stay with the woman? And why would they?
No.
So that means this kid has been raised by a woman, supposedly, who's going to take care of it until it reaches a certain age, for whatever reason, because it doesn't go with their society.
And is this all kids, or is this male children?
It's all
and
kids.
Then the females stay.
It's all kids. It make me a pirate. It make me a pirate.
We're asking legit questions because that
was a legit answer though. I said that all kids.
So do they all? Okay, now I'm confused. Are they all living on boats? Is it just everyone is on a boat?
No, like they have bases of they have bases operations so that if you
who's there?
The people that don't want to be pirates, and also the people that
so
run
are they the social. Are they the social failures? Is it after a certain age, like I retire and now I'm in charge of the base camp now? Like,
well, there's other stuff too because they're also known as shipwrights. So
yes, they have to build docks and stuff like that. So as far as
is another,
I think it would make more sense in society wise if you had it to where like at a certain age they're drafted basically into whatever captain is saying. I'm getting people from that island. I'm getting people from that island. Instead of a parents just like, oh, well, we're not really your parents.
We're not really your parents.
That's what
we're not really
like.
Your parents. Come on, that's wild.
I think you do need to describe that a little bit more. It's like once you're 10, they ship you off.
Okay. We can change the 10 part. Okay, I know 10's
but also,
not Pokemon crazy, right? Okay.
The issue too is that like there can't just be like a billion people like with different boats. You know what I mean? Like there has to be like a crew. Like they have to join a crew that pre-exists, as opposed to now I am my own wayfarer or whatever.
Well,
like,
okay, let me explain a little bit better. So,
I got a good idea. Go ahead though.
Okay, so the biggest thing, like people that have the money and influence to be able to have obviously a safe and structured home, to be able to get enough resources to build a ship. Sure, they can build a ship. But for the orphans, the random people like that, the beggars, the things like that are trying to make a name for themselves, that don't have the resources to build a boat, those people join crews. But idealistically speaking, or culturally speaking, the biggest thing as a culture is that the strong, the best, and the brightest go off, make a boat, gather the fucking undesirables, people that don't have enough money or resources or power or influence to make their own boat, form that crew, and they go out and conquer the world, win, lose, or draw. That's kind of how I had it envisioned. So don't keep it on the 10 because, okay, we can play with the 8-10, right?
Well, I think we can, like, a whole society of pirates just can't possibly work.
Okay, they're not all pirates.
So, well, I know. Well, if we're talking about the culture, let's build from there. So what do they value? Shipbuilding is huge, right? They're the only place with iron bark trees. So the craftsmanship, sailing, probably fishing, maybe whaling, something like that. So that's all legitimate ways for them to make a name for themselves. And then, of course, piracy. So I think there's different ways for these people to do what they it can't just be pirates.
Yeah, because you run out of things to pirate, right?
Yeah, you're pirate, then it's just it
no one
collapses,
uses
everyone kills each other.
No one uses ships anymore. Okay,
so they're just
that's
in
fair.
general seafaring people. Maybe they're the best navigators in the world, just period. I mean, they live on the ocean.
They live on the ocean. Yeah.
They're the greatest shipbuilders in the world because they have ironbark tree, and it's just something they've done for thousands of years potentially. But they are individualistic. They're entrepreneur or enterprising, right? Like they want to take their skills and then travel the world. There's that adventurous spirit. And then, part of it is there probably is plenty of people who idolize the pirates or the people who go and fight the good fight. But I don't think that is the only goal, because otherwise it's like
it's unsustainable, right?
So world best.
And what was your idea? You had an idea.
No, I was just thinking like if you did something like, especially when you're talking about with the age of kids or whatever. You could send them off at a certain age to this isle of testing, right? Where they have to build a boat to get there. They have to survive. They have to go through whatever to get on these crews or whatever,
I think that's a great idea. They put them there and then they drop them off. They have to build their boat to come back. And it's like 50 miles or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a Boy Scout overnight. You gotta. Like a bit of to the nth degree, right? Like they've gotta build a hut, and they have to, and I sort of envision it now that like help is not that far behind. Like if disaster strikes and they start to drown, like someone will save them. But
sure, yeah.
Well, maybe that's part of. Okay. You can't become a citizen unless you've done it.
So you have people living there, but not everybody's citizens, though, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, you're not.
Those that are there, they're maybe they're shunned. Maybe they're the ones that failed.
Yeah, and those become the low lives.
The ones that work for them.
Shipbuilding is a legitimate craft. I mean, you're a carpenter. You should know that's like.
Yes.
It can't be easy.
It's not.
And ships, like for real ships, not just a freaking dinghy. Those things are massive and
Galleon, something like that, a caravel.
Yeah.
The
world best, and then other things, fishers, whalers. They're probably getting free diving for pearls and all that kind of stuff. So the island people, I think of like people in the Philippines. When I think of like this place, it's like they live on the water. They're fishing. They've got boats going on. They're probably not shipwrights because they don't have iron. But and then there's some of that. Like there's definitely some outlaw situations.
I think it works.
And I think instead of I think admirals is probably better. They have the world's best navy.
I mean that's a given. It seems like they live on the water. They have the best material to make boats. They have ironbark trees, which are extremely light. They're lighter than iron, but have the durability of iron and also the flexibility of wood. Pretty.
So their home. I guess we were talking about the home is rite of passage. Probably 15 makes the most sense. That's usually around the time for most people, right?
Kids in the ears.
Puberty.
Passage, dropped off
12,
on
15.
island, build. a
Okay,
boat
that's it.
and
12.
come back.
Said 12. Said 12.
Puberty, man.
Yeah, 12. So I mean,
Okay, so
13, 12.
10 is crazy, but 12 is not crazy.
2 years at that age makes a big difference.
It is. It is.
Huge.
There's a big difference
Holy
between a 10-year-old
guys.
and a 12-year-old.
Listen, Joe Rogan said it best. He can beat up infinite 12-year-olds, all right? I don't care what nobody says they're 12, guys. There's no way. No way. But, all right. But, yeah, 15 makes sense.
Well, let me go back to the document. So what else? Are there different social classes? So in, of the things there, I imagine
It would have to be
shipbuilders-
because you got ranks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
you
you
got
have to have
ranks,
citizens.
captains, admirals, so
Yeah.
you're going to have social classes.
That, they
So
also have
who's at the
citizen
top of the social class when we think about it? We know Westerners are the religious.
Well, if you do that, then that's going to have to be a government, right?
It could be feudal. It doesn't necessarily have to be. But there's
Because
got
every
to be
single
some kind
island,
of governing body.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
every single island kind of rules themselves. Then it's
It
like,
could be a coalition of whatever.
And who's the
It doesn't
government
have to be-
protecting?
what do you mean the government? But the people, right? What are you talking about?
Wasn't
Their
I'm saying
lands and
like government
resources.
has to protect the people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, so yeah, I mean, the coalition thing makes sense. I think when I told you, John, is I'm like a parliament, right? There's just like literally like
A coalition
hundreds,
of certain islands.
yeah, the most prominent, the one that have enough power to actually make it there. So a parliament of people, and then of those people, the ones that have the biggest votes are the biggest and strongest ones. Almost like representational democracy, I guess, right?
So the admiral with the most experience.
Or like representational. I don't know how you use that, but it's definitely like the best and brightest of their people of that island go there to represent that people. So I guess that's what it is. I think
Is that a republic?
It sounds more republic-y.
Yeah, but that's like one big state. You're talking about multiple people coming in and like having a senate,
like a parliament. Yeah, that's kind of the thing.
Okay.
Like yeah.
but they're different districts.
So it's more like a republic in the like Greek and Roman sense of republic as opposed to modern.
Like the
Republic.
American Republic, right?
So we have the 7, let's call them 7 nations, whatever. We haven't figured it out. Headed by 7 admirals. And so they come together and talk about trade, land disputes, property exchanges, all the classic stuff, taxes, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, they all have a treaty together to protect the Eastern Archipelago, but they all have their own
Interpretation of that, right?
yeah, well, they're in their own needs, right?
Elements, yeah.
Yeah, each there's 7 different island chains. We don't have to section them out, but you just give an idea of that.
I agree with that. I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, and so
One thing I think that you're gonna have to do at some point in time is what is the code? Like what is the do's and don'ts for them as
I think that might be the next piece. Values and order might have to do with laws in the next piece. Yeah, legislative powers. All right, so how long society existed, we know that. What holds a society together? Ethnic commonalities, long cultural history, common values, faith, economic advantages, external threats. What holds these
I
7
asked me
pieces together?
the ethnic cultural is ethnic cultural ties is one. They're all from there. They all have been born there. They want to protect their homeland. 1, 2, economics, man. Their bases of operations are here, and like every single admiral has a base island that makes their ships and maintains their ships. That's there. That's economic.
And that's their major export, right? Is the ironwood, and they make ships. Like I imagine the Westerners and everyone else is like, we need one of those if we're going to. Okay. Let me go back to the thing. Social classes. So are we changing? Is it more military then? where it's like what rank you have.
I'm not sure like what you would call like a like almost like a y'all seen Pirates of the Caribbean when all the pirates met. I'm not sure what you call that, but that's basically what it is. So whatever that is what that is. When Jack Sparrow meets his father, and then they all kind of
because it's like a like they operate fairly independently, but they have
Yes.
like a code of ethics that they all sort of
It's like a treaty. It's like
Yeah.
the Treaty of
like
Versailles.
a
We won't
like
do
a
this stuff.
council of pirates or something.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
It's like NATO, right?
NATO pirates.
What is it?
NATO
North
pirates.
Atlantic Treaty Organization.
NATO,
So it's,
NATO without the differences.
Oh, North Atlantic Alliance. It could just be an alliance of the 7 different.
Yeah, alliance makes
plans.
sense. It's just an alliance of people, and they just have enough influence to make sure people, the smaller ones, don't.
Alliance of 7 nations. They could be
It
in
can
an
include
island
military,
change.
right?
They
Yeah.
could. The crazy thing is like.
I'm just thinking about pirates and alliances. That just doesn't go together to me.
It went together in Pirates of the Caribbean.
If they have a common enemy.
Yeah, right.
The
And-
one who
and-
wants to
and it
take over
also-
my position because I'm
But
the
it
top
also
admiral.
makes sense for survival, right? Like if you're always fighting each other, like nothing can be gained if you're always at war with somebody. Like that's like
And
the
that's the code I
opposite
was
of
talking about.
thriving.
That's the code I was talking about. I
think-
think it should be like my family for them is the land, and everybody understands that we protect the land at all costs. No matter what.
My islands, my home
My
island.
islands,
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree. I think Val, instead of pirates, probably more Viking like, right? Like they go and raid, they go and pose, they go, to the Northlands, rape and pillage, come back with a booty, but it's for their islands, their 15 islands or whatever of their nation.
But how's that different than pirates, though? Don't pirates go out and take stuff and then they go back?
I think it's just the connotation of like pirates are more like they attack merchant vessels and they're not like on land.
But they do. Oh, okay, so they're
But
pirate
it's
Vikings.
roughly the same thing.
Yeah, so they're pirate Vikings then. Okay, because it does sound.
You can call them whatever we want them.
Yeah, like they're-
PVs.
that works.
But we're fleshing out a little bit more because I think it sounds cool if everyone's just a bunch of pirates, but it doesn't make. They'll just collapse.
Well,
So seven nations.
They don't have to. Okay, so they don't have to attack each other so like the code that you're talking
Well,
about.
that's the alliance, right?
Yeah, right. But the thing is, well, too, right? So if they're attacking, like, let's say a certain number of merchant ships, whatever, like that, right? Or ones that don't pay a tariff, so maybe they have like a tax, and those that don't pay the tax are fucking got, and that's their thing. So you have to. So there's like this trade company, and this in every single thing. And maybe every single admiral has their own trade company, and they control like a certain quadrant of the archipelago. And if you want to go here, you gotta pay the tax. And if you don't have the tax, then you might get stopped, and you might get got. Right?
Yeah, I think pirate just in most people evokes the idea that it's like every person
every
for
single
themselves.
bandit and every single
Everyone's but this is an alliance of 7 different nations, whatever the island chains are. They're working together. They have a loose code. There's probably multiple situations where they pop off on each other and do, but in general, the peace is generally kept. And most of what they're doing is like raiding the Westlands and the South, probably not the South because they've got
dinosaurs are directly beneath there in like just desert.
the North and the West.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, pirates, just seafaring brigaders, does that help? Seafaring, I don't know, like naval.
They're seafaring people.
That's it. Just seafaring people.
Yeah,
that,
you don't have to put a label on it. That's just
they're just seafaring.
one of the ways
Opportunistic.
they are opportunistic. Yeah. If fishing and building boats and diving for pearls and living off the land isn't your calling, joining up one of these big navies and raping and pillaging and doing whatever you want, it might be your
prerogative.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think that's
That's
good for the Easterners.
Yeah, that'll work. All right, so we gotta
All
go
right.
to north or south. Your choice.
Let's go north.
All right.
So the idea, just a quick overview. The Northerners are kind of like the Mongol kind of adjacent, where they're nomadic tribes. They track game through the frozen tundra of the north. Skilled weavers, leather workers, animal handlers. Instead of horses, they're on giant wolves called wargs. They're warlike. Uh, they're sadistic. Their mantra is "What's best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation
Scatter
of the
their
women."
tribes.
Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Scatter their
Uh,
tribes.
They're hardy people. They're generally brave. It's like just one of their values, like just willing to face overwhelming
Culturally
odds.
misogynistic, toxic masculinity.
Yeah, they're very traditional, so they value their traditions. They ostracize people who don't fall into traditional roles of their tribes. So very traditional, like women only do X, men are the hunters. Like you know, when you are born in the tribe, you do this. You're not an artist. You are this, and this is what you do,
But
and this is the
mom,
people.
I want to become a YouTuber.
Obviously there's individuals that pop out, and they're religious. They worship and venerate wolves. We haven't really talked about the religion all that much.
We really haven't.
Uh,
But they do
but
have
I guess we can talk about it.
now, right?
Yeah. So I guess the first question, going back to it. So how are societies organized? So we know that they're loosely organized tribes.
and they're nomadic as well too. So each of their
A
structure.
chieftain.
Yes, yes. Each of their tribes are based around a chief that trails like caribou and herds and things like that, right? That's kind of their structure. So it's a
What's the social class? Are warriors at the top? Warriors and hunters
yeah,
at
yeah.
top.
I'll make a man. I forgot how the Mulan song goes, but you guys know the song.
Then so we have warriors and hunters at the top. Then skilled craftspeople are in the middle. So that's your weavers, your leather workers, stuff like that.
Caste system. Hell yeah.
in
Okay,
the
not
middle.
hell yeah. Okay, we don't above two. We don't.
And then
the caste system,
and then laborers, and then just straight up slaves. I'm assuming
Yeah.
they enslave people.
Absolutely, they do. Because who's gonna actually take care of all the stuff that they don't want to take care of? They're
Okay,
raiders.
so yeah, they have a caste system. It's your classic warriors, hunters at the top, craftspeople in the middle, gatherers / just general laborers.
And I will say this too as well, because and they're also very big. Like nationally speaking, they're like the Dutch people. Like the Dutch are like average like 5'11" kind of thing. They're very big people in general, and I would say this: if a woman was happened to just be a great warrior, I think that would just supersede her being a woman as far as like the toxic masculinity or quotation things. So
You think?
She'd probably still
I'm not saying that.
she'd probably still catch.
'Cause
She'd
I don't
probably
know.
still catch it.
Yeah. I
She
mean,
might-
yeah. I mean, like the Mulan thing, right? Like, would she still catch it? Yes.
She had to dress like a dude. Like that's the whole premise of that story.
Yeah. Are you
Right,
thinking
yeah.
more like Vikings, or there's like shield maidens and stuff? Even then, that was pretty rare.
No, that
and
was
like,
no, it's more like the.
But in this world, it might not be rare.
No,
Well,
But,
yeah, that's
but that's the thing is you can't have both.
Okay.
Like it's
You-
either they're egalitarian and it's based on skill,
Mhm.
or they are gender traditionalists.
Yeah, I
like
think-
those two
Because
things.
they could just worship like just warrior, being a warrior at any cost, male, female, no matter what. Do you display what you need to display to be a warrior?
I if we're thinking thematically, it just makes sense. Now, I don't say that there aren't. Maybe there's periods of like great female warriors that beat the odds, that type of thing. But it's
Right.
like it's
I'm
rare, and
leaning
they
more
probably
towards
caught
the
shit.
I'm leaning more towards toxic masculinity. I think that makes sense. Because I don't think
Because
they're-
if you're a PC, you could be of that and become a warrior and go against that, and that's totally fine. Just know that that's
the
just a
exception,
thing.
Right? That's the exception to the rule. It's
And that's
like,
cool. Like if you want to play that character, it's like
Right,
everyone's
right.
against you, and you're like, "Fuck you! I'm going to go travel and do my own
I'll
thing."
make a man. Let's just call Mulan.
Like-
So.
Yeah. Have you seen Prey? The
And what's that movie with the and the chick? It's like a
it's
Chinese
Predator.
movie.
It's Chinese
Not
movie.
No,
Mulan. We're just
not Mulan. It's not Mulan. It's other movies. It's like the one chick. She like trains in like okay, this is like every comic movie, but like she trains with like another student under like this master, but she surpasses the dude, and then she like goes off and like becomes like the official. It's a movie like that. I don't know the name of it, but it's not Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Is because I feel like that's what I want to say, but it's not that, right?
that happens. There's so many movies that's like
Okay,
that
but
is-
okay, whatever.
But it is. But the whole point is that is the
Yeah.
exception to the
Yeah.
rule,
Yes,
and
yes.
it's and
Let's-
there's lots. Part of the plot is that like they've got to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
right.
not saying that it can't happen, but I
Yeah,
think
'cause this is a
if
cultural thing.
we're talking a cultural.
Amazons.
Yeah.
This is what it is. So,
Okay. All right.
and I think it's okay to lean into that because the Western society is like
Super
we're
egalitarian.
tolerant of everything. Do
Super
whatever
And
you
like
want.
and there's the empress in the south that takes over, and so yeah, there can be the one group of like
And these guys are essentially savages.
douchebag
in
incels.
most
That's
ways.
fine.
Yeah.
Holy guys. Hey, we're gonna have.
Dang. Did I get political?
I'm about to get banned on Twitter, guys.
Pe-
So blue hair
people, I think we need to have a people like this because
Yeah, I
it
do agree. I
absolutely
agree.
exists. And,
And
Yeah.
they do exist, and they did
Yeah.
exist. Not they do. They
and
did.
it
and
continues
they do
to.
exist.
There's
Yes.
plenty.
Yeah.
All right, so where were we? Loosely organized nomadic tribes, chieftain, warriors, hunters. Okay, so social classes, we got that. The smallest social units, they're just families, right?
Yeah. Just families.
And then, so what holds their society together? Just strong
Survival.
leaders? Just strong leaders?
Strong leaders, and also the need to survive. There's not that much resources outside of hunting the trail. So those that are excommunicated or do not follow the ways of the tribe get kicked out, and they just have to survive extremely harsh environments.
Mhm.
So survival
How long
and
is this
survival and strong leadership.
Are
Probably.
closed off. Yeah, they are xenophobic generally.
Yeah, spooky shit, man. Strange shit up in the north, man. Where could you live up north?
Yeah, superstitious.
Oh my god. See a werebear?
Um,
You need a shotgun for that guy.
so can we talk about the religion a little bit? So
Yeah, we
we
can talk
talked.
about that.
We kind of got at it. I wasn't understanding. So they venerate wolves. Now,
Mhm.
is it to the point where they believe in a supernatural wolf spirit, like it's an animism type thing, or is it? They're like,
I think it's more ancestral. For me, if I would say like this would probably be the more ancestral because Batar, the Hero King, is a northerner.
mhm.
That is the thing. So if anything else, it'd probably be venerating Batar and those that come from his lineage, right? It'd be more like ancestral kind of base, in my opinion. And then the wolf, he rode a warg, so that also ties into the whole ancestry thing, right? I think that would be my opinion.
So when it's maybe not. Maybe it's hero worship. So it's not necessarily. It's a religion based around the wargs, but maybe famous wargs.
yeah,
like-
I think I
Shadow facts, the warg of the whatever who
And I
was
think-
known to slay its enemies.
And I think personally, I think strapping the warg idea and just going for Batar, like the hero thing, I think that just works better because there isn't a group of people that worship their ancestors, and these people will make the most sense to do so. But
Okay, so they're like burning the incense and to all the the heroes.
The war.
Wargs could be in there. I can imagine both.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, because he
Hero
rode, just hero because he.
I mean,
rode.
it could be that somehow through the time the lore was like that the souls of the dead warriors enter into the bodies of these things. Like you can
Yeah,
mesh the
That's
two.
cool. I like that.
that's cool. Listen,
Because
Yes.
this could actually go with their sort of lore background and why they are so staunch, let's say, is that they see themselves as the true descendants of Batar at this
Yeah.
point, right? Like that,
Yeah.
like they're, and so that's their
oh, that's
little-
ethnic fucking the superior race kind of thing right now.
yeah.
Yeah, we are of the people who
We did not try to make Nazis, guys. We did not. It just kind
we are of the people who tamed the world, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
But I
we are
think
the
it
first
makes
kingdom.
sense.
Yeah,
There's always
it does make
that
sense.
group that thinks that they have some like divine right
Divine
that
providence.
other groups
Right.
don't have, you know,
agree.
and that's theirs.
Easy
That
hero
makes-
and ancestor worship. They see themselves as true
Mhm.
descendants of Batar. That's easy. That solves it. Yeah, the warg thing was interesting.
But I think,
I was thinking.
yeah.
I think this makes a little bit more
Yeah,
sense,
that makes
especially
more
now
sense.
that we have the
Yeah, the
full
Batara
lore.
thing. Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
way more sense.
Let's lean into
worship.
that.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter.
All right. I think that covers the north. Those guys are easy. It's like we've got a lot of things we can pull.
Mhm.
So the Southerners. Just to read the overview, they're a militaristic empire, isolated city-states across the southern desert. Communal, they have strong family bonds. They're hardy people. They're used to living out in the deserts. Resourceful, they use creativity and wit to overcome difficult tasks and resources. Draconic, they have harsh penalties of law, especially against banditry. They're also xenophobic, like the Northerners. They are mistrusting of outsiders, and they are greedy. They pride themselves in materialistic goods, and that's one of the things that I think they show themselves. They show their wealth. They wear it.
Diamonds
they got
are
the big
very-
houses.
yeah,
they got diamonds.
Yeah, diamonds on forever. Yeah, no, yeah. So I agree. And as far as with family structure, society structure, I think that whereas the Westerners live in these like these large families, but they're also very communal with other families though too. It's not the case. They are like with Southerners, they're family based too, but they are very distant from other families, right? It's
So is it more like rival families?
Yes, like that. Then like a very like we're all like we are the world kind of thing with Westerners.
Family units are rivals with a long history of, I guess, conflict.
Yeah, you gotta think about it because all of the major city states are descendants of the Ironbound Emperor.
Whoever the big founder, one of the Ironbound Emperor's sons or something like that.
Yeah. So
how many kids? They had 37 kids.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So every
kids.
major city, like I don't know about Hobble, but the major cities, each of those were at one point in time under the control of one of her direct descendants, right? And then they're all trying to prove which was the better one, who was the first.
So the Westerners have these large extended families. The Southerners have these. So this would be. Are they more selective with who's brought into the family? Do they have like
Oh yeah, I mean because
arranged marriages or something.
Yeah, that makes sense there. So arranged marriages.
You have the title of you have the keep your bloodline kind of thing.
Well, you also want to know what you're getting when you're tying the families together. If money and resources is
because it's not endless farmland here, And, like they can roll around the oases and then the river, but there's not endless amounts. Like in the West, they just grow food; it just grows there.
Well, and you'd also think that this is where like predominantly like a lot of like the iron, like we talked about, and a lot of like gemstones, the diamonds are here. So it really is about which families control. Like there have to be, if there's diamonds, there's diamond mines. Like who control those and things like that.
Cool. So we've got these family units or rivals. And the rivalry could just be over resources, right? It's like we're the silver mines and whatever they have.
Yeah.
Okay. Arranged marriages, highly selective, bring people all together. What
And
kind
also,
of?
Also, too, is also in my opinion, I think it should be the whole like competing for who is like the best descendant kind of thing, right? I think that's the thing because I like the idea of every year there being festivals and things going on where they all kind of send their best champion or like that to represent their city. So I think that having this huge competition between like who's the best descendant, I think that's kind of cool.
Are those like Coliseum type games, like a champion from each whatever?
Each city state.
So champions of each city state compete for It's not bragging rights, is
Yeah,
it?
and like money, glory, diamonds, all like a money pot basically, and
Or
bragging rights for the year, for the
well,
championship.
and right.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
For
what's it?
glory.
What's the social class? Is it very similar where it's just whoever has the most wealth,
Yeah,
resources, all the
it's,
way down?
it's a caste system, but not as strict as the Northerners, because if you find a way to gain wealth, then you can rise the hierarchy. Whereas if you're a warrior, you're a warrior. If you're a potter, you're a potter, right?
But can you rise higher than a good family? So if you don't come from a good family, even if you're independently wealthy, you'll never be as good as them, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
But
So
but as far as like you can still kind of strike out on your own and do well, whereas if you're not a warrior in the north, you're
yeah,
class
you're
system.
never. So the caste system with some fluidity in the middle class,
Yeah. Yeah. So middle class is definitely
but
like,
ultimately
the ceiling is capped.
yeah,
It's
but
class.
ultimately the ancient film or the families connected to the Iron Brown Emperor is
So in a warrior society, that means the strongest warrior is the one that rules, right?
But this isn't a warrior society though.
they're militaristic, but not.
Not
It's
like
more
like army. So like generals and things like that. So every single city state has their own version of a military that kind of is think of more like America before the Civil War kind of thing, where every single people care about more about their state than about America itself. Like I'm a Virginian before I'm an American kind of thing. So they were more like that. And every single city state have their own military in their own distinct way, and then they only gather together when it's like a threat.
Yeah, it feels very like westward expansion, right? Like you have the territories that are, and they're kind of on their own because they're all like they're far away from the capital and the cities and whatever. And so it's like we've got to make Oklahoma livable or we have to make Colorado livable. And it's a little wild westy.
Yeah,
And-
yes.
and you do see kind of some of the overlap with the Western society of like some of their values because you imagine if you're
Yeah.
being subjugated or
But
colonized,
you get some of these values.
yeah,
You just kind of evolve to your own over time.
yeah, and it's okay. So that feels pretty fleshed out. Let me go over common whole ethnic commonalities long so okay we already know the ethnic commonalities, the common values. Do they have a faith? Are they religious folk? Do they have a big religion?
I would
Is it
say they're not generally
like
speaking
just a
very
bunch of
religious
religions?
because, and I would say that's probably one of the reasons why they didn't really mention the Westerns in general because they're not a very religious people in general. That's not really their thing.
So they deject. Maybe is that because of that they deject it? They're like,
That makes
yeah, we
sense,
heard
maybe.
about that shit. We don't like it.
Yeah, it makes sense because I think.
But what
one
do they
group-
believe? But what do they believe in? Like, regardless, societies
Yeah.
have some kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah, because that's when the afterlife and mystical shit happening. So,
Well, they could just believe in science, but I don't think so.
no,
It's-
we're
Or
not,
nature.
we're not
yeah,
that
it could be.
far.
Yeah, the spirits of nature.
We're not that far. I think it's really just venerating either their ancestors or like the strongest of their house. Whereas up north, they venerate the greatest warriors that ever live of their race. The south, they probably just venerate the greatest of their like the ancestor that represents their house, right? So you'd be like, okay, like I am Michelson, and I am, and Michelson the third represents the house because he was dead, blah 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 blah. If that makes sense. Or at least I'm trying to explain it.
Okay, yeah. So ancestor worship focusing on the most influential names in the lineage.
Of their direct
So
lineage, So it's not like a random, Batar or whatever. It's whoever is directly tied to them.
Yeah, so it's less. Where the Northerners, it's purely just hero worship, like the greatest warriors.
Yes.
This is like he was the greatest historian.
And my granddad,
the
man,
age.
saved the city six generations ago, guys.
Or they created algebra. Or
Yeah, George Washington Carver created 176 things for the peanut guys. That's my guy right there. So stuff like that. So I think that makes sense.
I think when we're going to call this, we got a
no,
lot of work
no,
done.
right now. So I was waiting. So first things first, guys, I want to thank Jess and everybody here for stopping by. This is part 2 of world building. So if you like this, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it. We're gonna get through this, and then once we get through this, I got some more ideas planned. I just really want to hammer out this world, and then we'll get to the nitty gritty, and then we'll get lost in 46 sub eras. Get ready. So I appreciate it.
You can do that on your own.
Hey guys, I'm gonna bring them along. I'm gonna bring them along. It's fine, guys. All right, so I'm gonna see you guys next time. Should be another next Friday. This Friday tomorrow game. So looking forward to that. We're gonna continue with some Deethra, and then we will see you next time. Peace, chicken grease, and bye.
Have a good night.
I think it did it do it?
You just click stop